All right, hey there traders, back with another video here in this basic series. Now I'm going to change it up a little bit here, and I think there are likely to be several more of these videos here. We're going to focus just on a single indicator. And I think one of the things that's really powerful about Algo Studio Pro is perhaps it can reignite your interest, or perhaps demonstrate you the value of an indicator. Now, I happen to be using one of ours, but you could do the same thing with any indicator that you own, whether it's Native Ninja or something you've invested in, as long as it fires off some sort of a signal. Now, I'm using our Devil's Edge here, which has, as you can see here, if I draw here, give me an arrow here. You see there's an arrow here, there's an arrow here. As long as I have these, here's some buy arrows, right, little green arrows, and all it's doing, and it matches the dot as it comes out of the Bollinger Bands below. Fires a dot down here and an arrow on the chart. Now on the chart here, I just to replicate here, just for ease of visualization, I guess, I have the makings of the MACD, right, of the building blocks of the Devil's Edge, and that's a 9 and a 26 moving average here. This happens to be, I've got McGinley on here, but they would be very close to an EMA. It's not going to make much difference with regards to the back testing that we're doing here. Now I'm using a 10 range, which I've become quite fond of, and that's from my partner TDI Dev. It got me looking here because there's real benefit, particularly if you're optimizing, as we're going to do here, for trading that can take place overnight, or well, let's call it 24 hours. Or within the full range of when an instrument is trading. So if you're going to leave this running, something like a 10 range, particularly on the ES, is quite effective because it's going to eliminate the big losers. Because we're going to filter and create an exit criteria here. It's going to limit how much you can lose, not only in terms of the dollar amount, but in terms of the number of bars here. So we'll look at that shortly here. So all I've got here is, let me just show you what I've got. This is the most recent 14 days on a 10 range. I do have tick replay enabled for more accurate back testing. I think that's all you need to see here. Now on the chart here, hang on a sec, I'll show you what I've got. So here you can see, as I always do, I have our toolbar, and the initial balance here frames up the day for us. The price line, then I have, here's a 26 and a 9 period. These are McGinley's, but again, be very close to an EMA. And then the Devil's Edge, which is, I've got this, these are my settings here. So it's a slight modification from the default. Is it? I think, actually, pardon me. I guess we do have the default here. I think what I did was reset it here for this video. I usually run it with a slight variation on the standard deviations here, but that's just fine here, so we'll keep it that. Couldn't be any simpler, right? So a 26, you don't even have to put the 26 and the 9 on. I just did it for just a visual reference so you understand what's happening with the MACD. Now, with our Devil's Edge here built into the MACD, we have a squeeze indicator, and I'm going to use that as a filter so that if a signal fires, as you see right here, during a squeeze, that's going to be filtered out. So no trades during a squeeze. We'll look at that with and without so you can get a reference of it. Now, I've already run an optimization so you can see what you're looking at here. And we all know, right, so that we had a massive day yesterday. And so it's tempting when I show you the results to think, oh, well, it's, of course, right, if it's doing longs all through that big, massive upswing, of course you're going to have great results. Well, you note here there's very few trades here, and one's actually a loser. Because we've done an optimization on time of day. And it just so happens that while there were great signals here firing on that day, as in this massive ramp, it just so happened if you are optimizing on time, as we have done, that during that period, based on 14 days of optimization, those are not the ideal times to be trading. So you see here, here's just a killer trade, right? So now, just because if you're standing in front of your machine and you see something like that, if you're comfortable taking it, take the trade, right? You don't have to let Algo Studio Pro do everything for you. But I'm just the point being, I don't want you to think, oh, when you see these results, oh, well, it's just because of one massive day. That's not the point. So as we look through this, I mean, today was kind of a slop day, right? It's not uncommon after a massive day like that you're just going to be range bound. And here we sit, a little push above the IB, a little below the IB. Very typical, essentially a trendless day. Right, it's actually a new all-time high, but just barely. Kind of digress there. Okay, let's go over to the algo. Let me bring this over here and we'll take a look at it. It could not be any simpler. And again, you can do this with any indicator you like. So you'll note here, I only have two conditions. I want the long signal or the short signal to fire, right? The arrows. So all I'm telling it is that if the long signal, right, if I've got a long signal and that equals 1, take the trade. If I've got a short signal and that equals -1, take the trade. Now let's just so you can see what I'm doing here, because some people are just getting started with it, and this will be useful to you. The data box here is where you're going to find the hooks, or for lack of a better term, that Algo Studio Pro can use from within the indicator. So if I look, here's a long signal, and you'll see if you look over here on a long signal, if I go, here, let's get the, hang on. I know I try not to talk with that because I talk with my hands, right? So here's a long signal. So you see long signal over here, long signal, when I put that right there, equals 1. All right, so again, this is for people that are just getting started with it. Okay, so long signal, if that equals 1, yes, I'm interested in that trade. If the short signal equals -1, I'm interested in that trade. So here's a short signal right here, right? So short signal equals -1, short signal -1, right? Could drop dead simple. Now the filter that we're adding is the squeeze. So if you look over here, I also have a squeeze filter. So if I put it on squeeze equals 1. So back to my algo, right? It couldn't be any more rudimentary. If the squeeze signal equals 1, I don't want the trade. So in other words, do not take the trade if I only want the trade if, well, let me rephrase this, right? The language here. I want to take the long, in this case, if the squeeze signal does not equal 1, because 1 equals squeeze. So I'm filtering out any signals that occurred during a squeeze. And same thing with the short. If the squeeze signal is a 1, don't take the short. Now the only other condition I've added is on the exit, and this is what I was talking about before, where there's a bit of a built-in protection here, because we're only taking these trades for a total of 5 candles. So since we have a defined range of each candles, okay, right? I mean, worst case here, you'd have a 50-tick loser, but of course we can filter that out, right? We would, as you'll see here, when we go to the ATM. Now I've gone to the ATM. I've run this optimization once. Well, I've actually run it a couple of times here because I did it with and without the squeeze. Now here, let me get this off here. That's why I take this off, because it's kind of annoying. Okay, so back to the algo. Oh shit, where'd you go? Here we go. Okay, so back to the algo. So you can see the times that it's optimized for based on the last 14 days as to when it should and should not be trading. And you'll note here at 1:30 in the afternoon, as we were just looking at it, at 1:30, oh, that was yesterday, on that big ramp, it was not trading, because the time filter, if you looked at it collectively over the last 14 days, right, that's not a time window that was profitable, so that's filtered out. Right, now let's go to the optimization. You can see what I did here. This is saved. So I did this via the advanced settings here because I wanted to filter out for the stop. So I didn't want a stop any greater than 24 ticks. So we're trying to keep it at around $300, right? So for your worst case loser on any individual trade. Oh, let's see, what else did I do here? Risk reward max at 4-to-1, but that actually doesn't end up being the case because of the filtering we've done with the stop. But nonetheless, right, so there you go. So that's how it was run. And I should note here, I optimized for net profit, always use a stop loss, and I optimized for the trading hours, which you don't have to do, right? You could simply just put in the RTH sessions and you're likely to get a different result. But because we now have the capability to optimize for time of day, so we're going to get a decent result. So as we look at that now, upon that, I'm going to click on the stats and the equity curve. So let's go through them quickly here. It's got a 60% win rate, 42.91 after fees. No commissions are factored in here. It's decent, right? There's some drawdown right now. Of course, the idea here is you might look at that and go, "Wow, that's pretty good." Now, so would you be disappointed? Probably not, right? If you've got 11 days of trade, or what do we got here? 12 days of trading. It only traded 11 of those days, and there's going to be days where either from time filter or there wasn't a trade that was there during the windows it was able to allowed to trade based on those time filters, where there's just no trade. So even though I have 14 days of data, it's only finding trades on 11 of those days. Or pardon me, on 12 days. And the average was about 11 trades a day. Right now, so I look down here and I like to see average win, average loser. Now, interestingly, average win is slightly smaller than average loss. But biggest win, biggest loss also very, very close. Then I come down to the gross loss here, but I'm always curious to look at the drawdown here, or the max losing streak. Looks like it's about 2 trades, 2 in a row. So because the average win and average loss are close together, that requires that we have a win-loss ratio of more than 50% to be profitable here. And this is nicely profitable. Now, would I trade that? Yeah, I'd probably use that as a foundation to work on and say, okay, well, how can I smooth this out? Can I add a few more filters here? I mean, I've only got one indicator. I'm only using the devil's edge. And not that you need to always be thinking multiple indicators, right? My point here is that you could trade just this and be nicely profitable. Again, I doubt anyone is terribly disappointed if that's your result after 12 days of trading. Maybe. It depends on the individual and your expectations here. Certainly, we'll put it this way. After 11 days, you've nicely paid back yourself for your investment in Algo Studio Pro. But here we are again. Here's that big day. So you look here and you go, why is it not taking that trade? That's at between, when is that? That's between 12 and 12:30. Here's my optimization window between 12 and 12:30, which is probably a time you wouldn't want it to be trading. It's filtered out those trades. So that is why, even though that would have been an obvious full hit winner, you'd have had your max return on that. It's kind of the trade-off, right? When you're optimizing here, it's going to optimize out that window. I take you back to, if you're standing in front of your machine, you see that firing. So I don't know that I would hesitate taking that trade. Just a thought, right? So, okay, we come back to this. So the point being, okay, well, let's play with it a little bit. Let's go back to our logic, and just out of curiosity, because we only have 2 filters on this. Let's see what happens if I take the squeeze out. Well, it's still profitable, but it's a little bumpier. There's certainly deeper drawdowns. I'm not ending up that far away from where I was. I put it here, right? But it smooths it out. So I don't get the bigger losers here. So, you know, it's enough of a difference to where I would likely keep that on. And the idea always is when we have that consolidation, you don't know which way it's going to break. So it can be an effective filter. That's why we built it in. It's not only just for the potential filter of when you're trading and when you're not trading, but also the expectation. A squeeze is not bad news. A squeeze is good news, because from the squeeze comes the expansion. From the contraction will always come the expansion. Always. That has nothing to do with trading. That's the law of the universe, right? So from the contraction comes the expansion. So there we go. It's always a good idea to go through your trades, and you can see the potential targets are there, but they're not often not making those targets because it's only allowing it to hold the trade for 5 bars. In this case, 5 range bars. So I think it's a trade-off between the potential upside that's there and the risk aversion to the downside, because you're only allowing a loser to run for 5 candles. Trade-off, right? Something to think about. But here you see, well, here's, we're running in the overnight here. Again, up to the individual as to whether you're comfortable with that. Now, certainly you'd want to let it run in sim a bit just to build your confidence in it. Right? It's going to fire as you have written it and programmed it to do so. I think that's a pretty good result. Let's leave it at this. It would certainly be a foundation to build upon to see if you can smooth out that curve, improve the win to loss dynamics here so that they're not so close together. Let's see if you can improve that a bit. But it's certainly not a bad start. Okay, with that, I'll wrap there. I just want to keep these coming. Basic series where we keep it simple, so you can build one and then say, okay, well, what I want to add to that. Okay, with that, I'll wrap here. There will be many more to follow. Let us know if you have questions. You can find us in our Discord completely free. Right? Lots of good ideas, lots of dialogue on ASP, and you'll see lots of examples of different ways people are using it. Okay, we'll see you on the next one.